What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the KBR Sports YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the James Harden trade to the Brooklyn Nets and just some of the timeline of things that led up to this event and how the team is going to be operating moving forward. Stay tuned to the video. We'll get right to it. Alright guys, thanks for tuning into this video. Guys, of course, if you are not already subscribed, make sure you guys subscribe to the KBR Sports YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button as well as hitting the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. And make sure you guys leave a like on this video to show your support for the channel and comment your thoughts down below what you think about this trade. And let's jump into it, y'all, because it feels like we were waiting with this trade, kind of waiting in the wings as we started this NBA season, and it was looming for a good while. And let me break down the trade from as we see all these pieces, so many moving pieces in this trade. But when we look at all the draft picks, so this is what was traded. So for James Harden is going to begin going to the Brooklyn Nets. It's a 4-team trade, okay? 4-team trade, including the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Pacers. So the Houston Rockets, they got Caris LeVert, Dante Exum, Rodions Kurucs, and then they got 4 first-round picks with 3 of the picks coming from the Nets, their 22 first-round pick, a 2024 first-round pick, and a 2026 first-round pick, as well as the 2022 first-round pick from the Cavs that is going to them from the Bucks. And then they also get pick swaps in 2021, 2023, 2025, and 2027. Okay, so let's just kind of notate all those picks that the Rockets are getting right now. And then when you're talking about the players, the Nets also send Jared Allen and Taurean Prince to the Cavs, so that the Cavs get to buffer that roster and the little thing that they're doing over there. So let's keep track of everybody that's going everywhere. Now the Houston Rockets are going to be trading Caris LeVert to the Indiana Pacers for Victor Oladipo, and they're also sending a 2023 second-round pick in that deal. And so it's crazy. A lot of pieces are moving here, man. A lot of guys are moving all over. But let's talk about the biggest piece in this whole equation, being James Harden. And it's wild when we talk about this whole occurrence, because you think about the timeline of this when it started back in the summer where James Harden requested trade, Russell Westbrook requested trade. All this really started with the whole Chris Paul scenario when that didn't work out, and really seeing that was James Harden's best fit. That's what felt like the best pairing to go with James Harden. And when things don't work out in that manner, it is unfortunate. But then when we all saw them go and get Russell Westbrook, we were like, oh, this is not going to work. And kind of that whole situation led up to them having to do all that they did to get rid of Russ, get John Wall. And then it's weird. It was wild because in the most recent loss to the Lakers, James Harden just damn near says that he just blows up on the whole organization saying that, I've tried. And, I'll just play the clip for you guys. You guys can just listen to the clip.
Which is not good enough. We don't. Obviously, chemistry, talent-wise, just everything, and it was clear. Like I said, these last few games, they just from the beginning of the game, they were just aggressive. Veteran team, obviously, championship team, and one of the best teams that we have in this league. I love this city. I literally, have done everything that I can. This situation is crazy. It's something that I don't think can be fixed. So, yeah, thanks.
And then John Wall responds to that. And once John Wall responded, I was like, oh, no, it's not working. I was like, they're not doing it. It's not going to work, man. It's a done deal. Cut it. So when you look at that scenario, you knew that James Harden was going to have to get traded. And when you're talking about this trade, how it works for both teams, I think in regards for Houston, let me just cover for Houston real quick. I know everybody wants to hear about the Nets, what everybody's thoughts are about the Nets, but for Houston real quick, I think Houston, it really bothered them having to trade as much draft capital as they did for Russell Westbrook, and in ways that they wanted to recoup a lot of that capital that they gave up for Russ. And so this was their way of doing that. And also I think that when you're looking at the picks, so 2022, those guys are still on the roster. 2024, technically, each guy's current contract expires in 2023. James Harden's expires in 2022, where he has a player option for the 2023 season. But Kyrie and Kevin Durant simultaneously, their contracts end in 2023. And in 2026 is a pick that they got from the Nets as well, And then when you're talking about the pick swaps, they have pick swaps in 2023, 2025, and 2027. Now, if you're talking about 2027, that's 6 years from now, okay? Even 2025 is 4 years from now. At this point in time, I don't even know if Kyrie's gonna. Nobody knows what Kyrie's doing. You know what I mean? What his goal is, what his overall arching goal is in his NBA career. But when you're talking about a guy like Kevin Durant, I mean, 6 years from now, Kevin Durant's already 32 years old. So when you're talking about 6 years from now, that man will be 38 years old. Okay, and I know NBA medicine and stuff has allowed players to extend their careers. LeBron's a perfect example of that, even though being at an outlier, where a guy is that effective that late into his career. And not everybody's an Iron Man like LeBron James. Like Kyrie, Kevin Durant have been notable guys that tend to get injured from time to time, particularly Kyrie Irving. So when you're looking at those picks for Houston, even though they didn't get back the young draft asset or the young asset type player like a Ben Simmons or whoever that a lot of people thought that that's what they were waiting for. I think at some point they were just like, yo, we need draft capital. We want draft capital, and we still want to kind of stay competitive. And I think that was their way of doing that, being able to stay competitive, getting assets that they could trade for another guy, but also getting assets that you never know how things could turn out with the Nets, so you could also possibly get something in the draft. So now let me shift my attention. I'll make a different video possibly about which trade or why they maybe didn't do the Ben Simmons trade with Philly, but I don't want this video to go too long, but I'll probably do it in another video. Now, in terms of what broke down with the Nets and how I view that trade, for the Nets, I don't like that they had to give up Jared Allen. Not at all. Because Jared Allen, at this point in the season, he was their defensive anchor. Literally, part of the Nets signing Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant was them signing DeAndre Jordan to that 4-year, $40 million deal, if I'm not mistaken. And DeAndre Jordan literally just got benched. You know what I'm saying? Like, he got benched. I mean, do not play. Coach's decision, benched. You know what I'm saying? So when you get that type of benched, it's like, okay, this guy took your job. And so when someone takes your job in that manner and they are literally the best defensive player you have on the roster, then you trade that guy. Look, it's tough to see how this team will guard a team like the Lakers in the finals, because that's the end destination. When you're looking at the barometer of success, you're looking at the team that's the current champion. LeBron lives in the lane. Anthony Davis lives in the lane. And when you're talking about this Nets team, who am I pointing to that's like, oh yeah, that's the guy that's going to check LeBron James. You feel what I'm saying? That's the guy that's going to guard Anthony Davis. You know what I'm saying? And the Heat had Bam Adebayo, and they couldn't even do that. And they had Jimmy Butler. Not to say that Kevin Durant can't guard at that high level when he's trying to. Like, Kevin Durant can be an excellent defender when Kevin Durant is bought into playing that high level of defense. But James Harden playing defense, I mean, when he's playing, he's above average at best. Kyrie Irving is average when he's trying to play defense. So I think in terms of the defensive end of the spectrum, I think that this trade in that way kind of it lacks some on the defensive end. But when you're talking about offensively now, I think that it's a lot. Even when we're talking about the full defensive spectrum, I think you're just asking a lot of Kevin Durant to be one of your leading scorers, be the leading ball handler or one of the lead ball handlers, and also be the main rim protector and guy that covers everybody else for their mistakes on the interior. And I think that was my main issue with the Jared Allen, getting rid of him. But when we're talking about like the guys like Karis LeVert, Taurean Prince, and so on, I don't think that, and the offensively on that aspect, when you're talking about depth, I think getting rid of those guys, that's not as big a deal to me. And personally, because of the fact that when you're talking about depth with these teams, part of the depth that this team had was surrounded around the fact that they had both Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert. With Spencer Dinwiddie now being out for the rest of the year, your depth has been shrunken surmountably. You know what I mean? And I think that now, when you're looking at it from that vantage point, I think James Harden coming in, with James Harden, the level of insurance he gives you over that next guy. So let's say, for example, if James Harden comes in and Kyrie Irving doesn't suit up another game, your team is still good enough to win a championship because James Harden is that good of a player offensively. And I think that now you're in a position, because when you have two players, like when it was just Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, a lot of times when you have superstar duos, for those duos to really be able to win a championship, you have to have a fully fleshed out team around them, but also both players, the two best players on the team have to be at least in the conversation for being top 5, top 10 players in the NBA. Like when we're talking about the most notable duos in league history, we're talking about like guys like Kobe Bryant. We're talking about Kobe Bryant, Shaq, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. We're talking about Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. And even though those guys, the rest of the roster around them, it wasn't like they were the deepest teams or whatever, what have you, but they were pieces that maximized for one, the duo's abilities, but also they were pieces that could supplant what the duos could provide for a minimal amount of time while those duos rested or if they missed a game or whatever the case might be. When it comes to what Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving had, Kevin Durant was that level of guy. He's that capable of a player. Kyrie Irving, he's talented, but I don't think we're saying Kyrie Irving's on the same level as James Harden, Kevin, those kind of guys. So I think in that aspect, that's where it became a little bit more murky. And now even with Kyrie Irving kind of going through whatever he's going through, it makes things a little bit more questionable. So now you go and get a guy like James Harden, who has proven to be durable throughout his career and has proven that he can play that, a majority of the season. So I think that when you're looking at it from that vantage point, things do get a little bit more interesting for the Nets. And I still would because I think where I was looking at with this Nets team, the Nets were a team that I had already as a favorite in the Eastern Conference. Now that just bolsters that argument because I think that when you're talking about the rest of the teams in the Eastern Conference, the reason why the West was always seen as so much better than the East, the West always had more top 15, top 10 guys on the same team than the Eastern Conference did. Like when you're thinking about like guys that like the East, they would have like maybe one top 5 player or maybe one top 10 player on a team, but then his next best player would be like a top 25 player. That was normally what the East was throughout LeBron James's reign in it. But now when you're talking about the East, you have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden on the team. You have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown on the team. And it's interesting because this has improved the East by so many leaps and bounds. But I think a lot of the skepticism I see with this deal is the fact that now, there's only one basketball, right? There's only one basketball to go around. But I think that this offense is going to be unguardable. And I think that when you're talking about ball handling, the responsibilities, I think that James Harden ends up becoming your lead ball handler. And the reason why I say that is because I think James Harden has shown he's the better player with the ball in his hands than Kyrie Irving. Kevin Durant just merges in with anybody so well that Kevin Durant can play off ball, he can play on the ball, he can do whatever you need him to do. But I think when it comes to Kyrie, we're going to have to see more of a Kyrie Cleveland version when he was playing with LeBron James in this offense. Not to say Kyrie won't handle the ball at all, but I think that the best version of this team's offense comes with James Harden handling the ball because James Harden, aside from Kevin Durant, is the most unguardable player on that team. And I think if James Harden doesn't play James ball and he comes back to playing some semblance of basketball, the offensive capabilities are just unbelievable with this team. Pick and rolls with Kyrie Irving, pick and pops with Kyrie Irving, pick and pops with Kevin Durant, pick and rolls with Kevin Durant. It's just, oh gosh, it'll just be unbelievable the way that they will put teams through oh gosh, it'll just be unbelievable. But when you even talk about the numbers of these guys playing together, when you look at the field goal attempts, like Kyrie Irving, throughout 7 games playing this year, 20.1 field goal attempts per game. Kevin Durant, excluding the most recent game against the Knicks, 18 field goal attempts per game through 8 games. James Harden throughout 8 games this season, 16.9. But year before that, 22.3. Kyrie Irving's usage rate, which is the percentage of possessions you use of your team's possessions. Kyrie Irving this year so far, 30.3%. Kevin Durant, 31.6%. James Harden, 29.3%. This year, and then over the last 2 years, last season it was 36.3. James Harden has led the league in usage rate for a majority of the last few seasons when he's had these crazy statistical seasons. But I think that when you're looking at how this team is going to perform, I think Steve Nash will find a way to kind of orchestrate the offense where it doesn't just become Harden ball and each guy can feel like they're getting theirs. But Kyrie Irving, without a doubt, is the third option on this team. If he doesn't see it, I don't know if you want to tell him, but you know what I mean? Like it's not a question, man. Those 2 guys have 8 scoring titles combined. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just, Right. I don't know what you say to that, but I think that's just the common sense way for this team to be able to run. But this move is the ultimate do it now type of move from this Rockets team. And you can't be mad at them, man. You got to give respect to them for kind of just saying to hell with it all and just buying in, because really you think you have these windows for so much of a long period of time, and the windows, if you don't go for it all and you try to play a little bit conservative sometimes that's what cost you it, because you didn't feel the best possible team that you could in that window. And if at the end of this they don't win a championship, they can't say it wasn't for a lack of trying, because you literally went and got three superstars. When in the history of the NBA do you see three superstars fail to win a championship? It's very rare, and we can all point to Miami losing to Dallas in that scenario. But the reason why, even in that scenario, that's a tough one. It's not that it's a tough one. They should have. The Heat were talented enough to beat Dallas, but the Dwayne Wade and LeBron dynamic, it was very confused, which is why after that time period, Dwayne Wade taking the step back, saying, "Hey, LeBron, for us to be the best, we got to be. You got to just play like you, man. Honestly, like stop trying to get me involved. Like just do your thing." And you see how it turned out in the long run. And even when Golden State lost to the Toronto Raptors, Kevin Durant wasn't even healthy. And Golden State arguably would have won the series if Klay Thompson would have been healthy. If he didn't get hurt in Game 6, they were making a run at it. Like if Steph Curry hits that shot at the end of Game 6, and you're going back to Toronto to play Game 7. I feel like people butts start getting tight, palms start getting sweaty. Dudes start shooting, miss 27 straight threes. When the game sevens come around, it's a different game. But guys, thanks for tuning into this video. I might do a different video just kind of expounding upon all the different trades from this whole circumstance a little bit more. But thanks for tuning into this video. Of course, if you didn't subscribe, make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to the KBR Sports YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the post notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Leave a like on the video, guys, so you support the channel in this video, as well as leave a comment. What do you think about this Nets team? How do you think it's going to all look on the court? What do you think about the package Houston got back for all that they gave up? And what do you guys think about this Nets team going forward? Are they now the favorites for the championship, or the Lakers or the Clippers or the Celtics or somebody else the favorites? Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. And guys, make sure you follow me on all social media. And until next time, I'm out.